According to the Ministries of Manpower and National Development, the concentration of migrant workers in dormitories has been thinned out significantly, and large sections of dorms are no longer gazetted as isolation areas.
Purpose-built dorms have seen a 25% drop in occupancy. They now house some 160,000 workers, down from 212,000 in April.
The Health Ministry said the de-gazetted dormitory blocks now house only recovered workers and those who recently tested negative for COVID-19. Control measures are in place to prevent occupants of these blocks from mingling with those in blocks that remain gazetted as isolation areas. Only workers staying in selected blocks are allowed to go to work.
In the meantime, contractors anxious to resume business have taken the initiative to apply to build temporary quarters for their workers on work sites. These include quick-built dormitories and construction temporary quarters.
We are joined by journalist Tee Zhuo to tell us more. Now, if these dorms are to facilitate the quick resumption of business, then how long does application take? And could you explain the whole process to us?
Well, there are several kinds of temporary housing structures that will come up in the next few months. And I think each of them will have different application processes. But the most immediate are the construction temporary quarters. So these are temporary structures that will house workers at the construction site itself, and they can hold up to 300 workers each. They are standalone structures and can be removed later, or they use parts of the building that's being constructed to house the workers. The application process for that is so they have to go to BCA, the Building Construction Authority, and also seek approval from MOM. But there are also multiple government agencies that they need to get the approval from, like for example NEA and PUB. These are for things like sanitation and water supply. Offhand, from context, they've told me that the process to build something like this could take a few weeks, and I think the authorities are trying their best to expedite the application process for such quarters. The QBDs are a bit further afield, so I think until the end of the year, I think was the deadline that was given, and I think next month MOM and other agencies will be holding more consultations with health experts. So those are the quick-built dorms, which are semi-permanent structures that will last for about 2 to 3 years.
Right. Well, Tee Zhuo, how far will these new arrangements go in helping to reduce the density of workers in the other dormitories?
Right. As we have seen already, they have reduced the occupancy of the current purpose-built dormitories, which are the largest class of dormitories, here by about 25%. So I think we can expect them to do a lot more, especially since the QBDs, the quick-built dorms, are supposed to add about 25,000 bed spaces. And already the Ministry of Manpower and the authorities have approved 25,000 bed spaces for the construction temporary quarters, so that's 50,000 in total. And I think now Education Minister Lawrence Wong said in a previous press conference that the aim was to get about 60,000 bed spaces by the end of the year. But I think the important question is what happens in the long term, right? So in the next 2 to 3 years, Mr. Wong also said that they are adding more spaces to the purpose-built dorms to thin them out even further. But the longer-term question is, of course, what sort of permanent housing that we can give to workers that will still have good living conditions. And I think this requires a real discussion between civil society, the experts, and the construction sector and the authorities.
Now, authorities have said that safety measures will be implemented in the new quick-built dormitories. Can you elaborate on what some of them are, and are there any potential loopholes that might lead to problems, despite these safety measures?
Well, so the specifications are still being discussed, but as of June, I think it was reported that these quick-built dormitories will have no more than 10 beds per room. Which is, I guess, down from the current up to, I think, 16 or sometimes even more beds per room. And these beds are supposed to be single deck, so not double deck, as in some dorms right now. and have at least 1 meter of spacing between them. Additionally, there are also not supposed to be more than 5 people sharing a toilet, bathroom, and sink. Currently, as many as 15 people, for example, could share these amenities. And each resident is supposed to have 6 square meters of living space, compared to right now the regulations are 4.5 square meters. So I think the question is whether or not this is enough. For now, based on what MOM and the Ministry of National Development have told us, the early feedback from dormitory operators is that they are generally supportive of capping the number of workers per room and increasing the living space per resident, to help reduce the kind of transmission during pandemics like COVID-19. And they're also going to be testing some variations on these changes to these configurations of the QBDs in some selected dorms. So, but on the other hand, some civil society, which is working with the migrant workers, have raised concerns that this sort of configuration could still not be enough, because ultimately it's still multiple people to a room. So I think that might be the loopholes that you might be talking about. Because after all, it would also be very hard to control mingling between different workers, and we should also ask whether or not we should.
Right, well, thanks very much for speaking with us. That was journalist Tee Zhuo.